often, in fact, I would say most of the times, along those identity chains where an attacker could hop across resources, across accounts, there will be some unused identities along the way. So the nice thing about unused is that if we clean those up, we also are getting rid of issues like lateral movement potential. We're getting rid of issues like overprivilege. Maybe I have, a unnecessary admin on a role. Well, I don't need to worry about least privilege policy because the thing is unused. So I just remove it, right? The thing is that removing unused identities also has like a trickle down effect. It fixes a lot of other problems downstream.
It makes a lot of sense. It sounds like just a bunch of unnecessary attack surface that could potentially be exploited.
Yeah, you can think of it as attack surface and also as just once someone is in, those unused identity can just be used to navigate around and get to something that is meaningful.
Right. So I guess listening to all of this, it seems like such a simple issue to solve. It seems so basic. Why are organizations struggling to just do the no-brainer of clearing out these unused identities? Do you have any ideas of why this is such a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several facets to that, right? So the developers who are building the applications oftentimes aren't even aware of the unused identities that are being left behind. So they can't really easily go clean those things up. Also, in order to tell you if an identity is used or not, a tool would have to correlate the actual identity and the permissions associated with that identity with its actual activities. So we can see, is it being used? Is it being partially used? And that way, there's no easy way to do that in the cloud provider console. So it's not like you get this great list of things that are old, and then you can just go clean them up. But also, I think there's an aspect of hesitancy, right? So if this thing is not being used today, does that mean I'm not going to need it tomorrow? Even though, removing an unused identity in and of itself is actually a simple thing to do, and you can do it easily with a script or you just wipe them all away. There's always some fear associated with that because you never know, is it truly unused? Is there some kind of, misinformation here that might cause me to break one of my applications and cause downtime? And also, there's no cost associated with it. So maybe it's safer just to leave it, right? At the end of the day, we know that many breaches involved credentials, and whether it's how they get in or just how they move once they get into your cloud environment. The single most impactful thing that you can do today to reduce that risk is removing those unused identities.
That's amazing. You just mentioned breaches. Do you have any public breaches, anything recent in the news that involve
Oh,
credentials or unused identities?
it wasn't a data breach. It was actually it was a Cisco breach. And what happened is the attacker was able to get in through some credentials that were old and unused and unnecessary, from an employee who had left the company. And they didn't gain access to sensitive data or anything. What they did is they actually gained access to sensitive infrastructure, and they went and they just tore down that infrastructure.